and welcome to the program where we make fun of sales, training, and promotional films of the past. My name is Jason Reid, here as always with my co-host Chris Mei. How are you doing, Chris?
I'm doing well. A little nervous about this one. Subject matter being teachers. Almost all of my family, for the most part, on the MEI side, on the Mei side of the family, they're all teachers, so I have to be on my best behavior tonight.
Yeah, so we're going all the way back to 1947 with this film, and really it was generally made as a piece of propaganda by the American government to show overseas, and I guess they were trying to impress other countries with how well teachers in America were educated.
Wow, it's like an episode of The Little Rascals I'm getting ready for.
Sounds like it.
Work is getting started while the sidewalks are still dark.
Boy, this one goes a long way back.
1947.
All right.
Just after the war.
With the laws of motion and chemical combination, with music and history.
Wow, all in one class?
In the biggest cities and the
Movement and chemical combination and what in the world are they teaching?
30 million children.
It sounds like we've de-evolved since then.
Will be getting an education. And so perhaps the most important part of this college is its laboratory school, where future teachers.
Oh, it's the Dos Equis guy when he was a little kid.
Did they just say laboratory school? He said laboratory school. So they're not even in a real school. These are just kids that are in a laboratory.
They're the equivalent of injected mice.
Must have been an exchange program.
Must have been.
And then by beginning to supervise children in simple tasks.
How's the nuclear fission going there, Johnny?
By helping with jobs like testing a child's ability.
Now that's a challenge, feeding film through an old projector.
Yeah, thank goodness for MP4.
By observing children during periods of free or creative activity.
Stop petting your clay, kid.
And
nice spanks.
Learning to think of children as people whom you must get to know.
Well, that's novel.
They can know how
That's a novel idea. We should start thinking of children, follow me, as people.
Oh.
He wants to coach high school athletics and to teach biology.
But he's already in a 1980s new romantic band.
Yeah, he does. He looks like he's kind of like out of OMD or something.
There was a big shirt shortage back in 1947 as well, apparently.
So these guys took their white dress shirts off and just went skins for football.
As soon as he begins to practice
boxing? I don't remember this in grade school.
So this teacher who wants to be a phys ed teacher, who's just taking biology so he can get a gig, the first thing he does is he has one kid pound the crap out of another kid.
He is about the winner. Much patting on the back. When Johnny, the fat boy, waddles in last.
The fat boy waddles in last?
Thoughtlessly but prudently.
Oh my God!
Whoa.
Wait, you're fired.
This is why gym teachers are universally hated.
Henry King is trying to look as though he didn't care much about the whole business.
You've got to be more like a train.
He's probably doing the choo-choo noise.
That something is bothering him.
Is it post-war income distribution or the civil rights movement? It's hard to know what's
bothering Henry is the fact that this teacher's mean. He's an egomaniacal idiot.
Henry seems to have had enough of Jack.
No, he's off to form the Young Socialist Club.
He's like, Henry, screw him. Yeah, this is a great teacher. That's what we want. That's what we're after.
He also notices that
his dry skin
is lost on Jack, who's fully occupied.
Again, Henry takes off. No one's going after him. The teacher's like, I need more moisturizer.
In one of the required courses, each student
taught by Herbert Hoover
of some particular child.
Okay, the music. Why are we listening to a soundtrack?
I think it's basically the same 6 bars of music that's just repeated.
It sounds like it, but I feel like I'm watching an old. I feel like I'm watching a movie.
In the laboratory school, to get acquainted with the people.
I can't believe they call this a laboratory school. So those kids are they getting grades or are they just there as an experiment?
Where the boy will fit.
Well, you know, it's post-war America. And there's a lot of feral children hanging about.
And then he goes to the rear of the room, the usual place for class observation.
Yes, that's the best place to observe the back of people's heads.
Nothing gives you the pulse of a class or their attention span better than not looking them in the eye.
Laboratory school are so used to visitors that they pay little attention to them.
They're used to being lab rats.
I'm so used to being a lab rat, I don't care anybody else comes in. Uh-oh.
Jack wonders
Could it
which
be?
boy has been assigned to him, and is disappointed to find that it's the same boy who had puzzled him on the field.
Look at the teacher. Ah, shit, it's that kid. Because he still hasn't figured out you gotta like kids. Look at Jack's like, how do I get out of this?
But here Henry is in his element. His behavior in the classroom is quite different from his behavior on the playground.
Yeah, because he's a scholar. He's not a jock.
Look at the hands on those hips, man. He knows what he's saying, and no one's going to get in his way.
That's right, he means that.
Kid, no, this is 1947.
We outlawed that one in 1945. You can't do that anymore, Johnny Appleseed.
To show what he knows. Jack begins to wonder how these two Henrys are connected.
There's not even a placenta between them.
After class, the teacher shows Jack some of Henry's work.
Wow, I had no idea he wrote the Iliad and the Odyssey.
Who knew that Henry was also
Clear that she
Greek
sees
and
a
500
different
years
side
old?
of Henry than he does. In the following weeks, Jack visits more of Henry's classes and talks to all of Henry's teachers. And there are other sources where Jack can find clues.
Other
to the
sources?
puzzle
What
of
is this,
Henry.
Dragnet?
To find clues. You're right. What is it? It's a cop
Talk
show.
with Henry's parents.
Nice soda stream there below the number on the house.
I wonder what that is. It does it. I mean, of course, the times we're in right now, it could be a hand sanitizer.
Maybe they were ahead of their time.
That would put them ahead of their time.
Mrs. King is friendly and cooperative. Jack explains what he's doing.
Like her
He
child
mentions
is
how
like a
different the
mob
boy
boss or
seems
something.
in the schoolroom.
Mrs.
Out on
King
the
was
playing field.
friendly and
He learns
cooperative.
that the
He's
family
writing
moved
in
to
his
town
notes.
A few months ago. That Henry is an only child. That he is very high-strung. Proud of what he can do well. Ashamed of whatever he does poorly.
Look at him. He's like, give me a second. I'm going to kick
With
this
the
kid's ass.
coach's permission, Jack takes a surprised Henry across the field to a place where he can practice jumping unobserved by the other boys.
Is that
Jack has
wise?
figured out that what Henry needs
Yeah, should you be
is
taking
a
him into
little
the
success
forest?
in
This
just
sounds like
what
a
the
hit.
competitive sport is jumping, and that this can give him the kind of assurance which the two easy successes of the classroom can never give him.
Over here, kid.
Look at me. Look at me. See, in this day and age, they would have immediately diagnosed him as ADD.
Yeah, that's going to be a tough one, kid.
Yeah, that's like, have you ever gone downstairs? It's kind of the same thing.
It's like stepping over your dog.
Yeah.
Henry
He
isn't
shows him a
breaking
football
any
punt
records
for some
this
reason.
first day.
It's like, what you need to do is you need to dance over it. Show us some flair.
Which will help him overcome his shyness. And Jack is beginning to
Whoa!
acquire
That deserves a
that
medal.
understanding of the individual
Or what that
child
teacher did and punched him in the face.
essential for becoming a successful teacher. And there are other kinds of understanding. This is
The
Elaine,
understanding between a young
An
woman
excellent
and her
student.
romantic erotica.
proud of her high marks.
I hope that's not what's in that grade 3 school library.
Spends most of her time in the library or in her room with her books.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
one boring diary.
That is a boring book right there.
It's
This
an
music's
extra
a bit
chalk
much.
dust on my fingers here.
Elaine's chief concern is to please her teachers.
Okay.
Well,
Ooh, check out Charlie
All
Brown
this
next to
study
her.
is good and necessary
that's one
preparation
buff
for
Charlie
teaching,
Brown. Come on.
But she still has a lot to learn. Miss Schaefer's third grade has been learning about the children of other lands. And
What,
Elaine
like from
has been
Mordor or
observing them
something?
for several weeks.
Other lands.
Other lands.
She has been impressed by the fact
This is such
that
an
it was
American
Eddie.
video. We are the
She is
United
not
States,
fully aware
and
of the
everything else
relationship
is in
between the
other
teacher and
land.
the class. And how Miss Schaefer uses
Look at how
their own
stunned she is that there's
questions and
children in this class.
and encourages them to take
What am
part
I
in the
into?
class
What did I do?
so that it becomes an opportunity for each individual to contribute something and to learn from the others. So when the moment comes for which she has been waiting so long, when Miss Schaefer asks her to take the class for a while, Elaine uses it as a chance to display her own learning and starts off with a lecture.
Meanwhile, Miss Schaefer gets a summons.
Yeah,
better
this is
go
where
see
Miss
the
Schaefer said, okay, 20 minutes into class, you come to me with a piece of paper so I can get out. So Elaine starts with a lecture, because that's what grade 3 kids want.
Exactly. How much can you say about some fabric?
About a
These
tapestry.
children are used to taking an active part in
As
the
a speaker, I'm used to seeing
class. They
that.
can't take part in a lecture.
That is the worst look possible.
When you first take the stage and you know you've really got to win over the crowd.
These kids playing with their toys is the equivalent of somebody like you and I having people just immediately go down to their cell phones.
She's going to show them. She's going to mine the heck out of this scene. They're not happy.
That class does not want her there. She's not helping by going back to this stupid piece of fabric.
What's even worse is she's trying to be culturally appropriate and doing it in Spanish, and they don't even understand it.
Face to face with it, she becomes desperate.
The Dos Equis kid is out of control.
Oh no!
Half an hour later, she is in the office of the Dean of Women.
Drinking
Her
heavily.
pride is hurt.
And then
She
the
is
kids were
discouraged.
chugging
What has she done
tequila.
wrong?
Who is that in the
knows that
picture
the
in the
answer to this
background? That's not the
question
president.
is not
Unless
one
it's
of
the
Yeah, you're right.
president
It's
of
supposed to be
Peru.
the president in the background,
One
wouldn't it
of
be?
Elaine's own development and understanding of personal relationships. Knowing that she has an excellent scholastic record, the dean advises her to spend more time with people and less with books.
Join the human race, why don't
Elaine
you?
decided, first of all,
She and Henry are two
to
peas
try
in a
getting
pod.
into some
They are.
They
She
love
had
their
never
school.
felt
They're
that she had
scholastically
time
driven,
for
but they're maybe
sport.
not into sports.
Now she is finding out that she not only enjoys learning a game, but that she soon begins to know and enjoy the other girls.
Know
Much
and enjoy
better
the
than
other
she
girls.
ever has before.
Hopefully not biblically.
Okay, all right. Well, she wanted to please the teachers too, so.
More self-assured. and
There we
begins
go,
to
a
make
square
place
dance.
for herself in the life of the campus.
Man,
Wow, she's fitting in now.
wait, is that a piano they brought to the park?
Are you kidding me? That's a freestanding piano outdoors.
Imagine dragging that thing across the grass. Cow. Yeah, she's liking men a little bit too much, I think.
Yeah,
The
perhaps.
dean had also advised her to get all the experience she could with small children.
Apparently, the dean saw her with the guys and said, yeah, you've got to get a lot of
Head of the
experience
local
with
day
young
nursery.
children.
Yeah, you should probably
Cares for children
work
of
more
mothers
on the
who
little
work.
kids as opposed to the grown men. Nobody at all sees this fight happening. Okay. She's a student teacher. Where was the real teacher? Real teacher just doesn't care.
There she is. Don't worry, they're in a committed relationship. Look at all the overalls.
Maybe it's a school for the Amish. I don't know. Well, they said it was a lab.
They were out picking potatoes earlier.
But the discovery that gave her the most satisfaction was that she could enjoy children.
She's just discovering she can enjoy children. Why did you go to teacher's college?
And she went for 4 years and she's finding this out in her job placement.
There is more to the art of teaching than everything Jack and Elaine have learned here.
Hey, a little story about Jack and Elaine. Saying, please don't send me back to that school again.
Start toward acquiring the understanding and skills for becoming good teachers.
Yeah, you have to like
To
kids
develop the
and
art of
people.
teaching takes years of practice
And not mock
hard
them
work,
mercilessly.
many mistakes, and many disappointments.
Particularly the disappointments in the evenings after the
Demands
square
that a
dance.
teacher cares,
Yeah.
that the boys and girls who are our future shall develop their potentiality.
Potentiality? Is that even a word?
No, it's supposed to be develop their potential. Potentiality, where did that come from?
And to become useful and responsible citizens.
Yeah, don't be useless, kids.
Be responsible and ride your bike to school. God bless American teachers. And that was a look at Teachers College back in 1947, Chris. Considering this was a propaganda film designed to basically show the communist world and the third world, how great American teachers were educated, how well do you think that it actually did that?
Well, they made teachers look like they were completely and entirely unprepared. They showed the new crop of teachers that were going through Teachers College, went through 4 years of Teachers College and learned nothing, because you had one teacher that was a narcissist and the female teacher was completely disillusioned. So I don't know that it did. They didn't portray themselves very well. What was your takeaway from it?
Well, I think you're right. I think with both of these characters, they went through a transformation, and being that it's a short film, the transformation wasn't as much of an overhaul as you would hope it would be. So why don't we actually why don't we take a little storytelling 101 here and look at our
Storytelling 101.
Yeah. So the story of personal transformation, which is also often known as the hero's journey, is one of the most common stories where, someone is moving forward towards a goal, they have a problem, and they have to overcome that problem to get to their goal and their better life.
Yeah, this scene here was disturbing, because there's no way that, first, as a human being, as a decent human being, you don't mock somebody for something that is different. Like, this was him mocking the overweight kid. They called him Fat Boy, which was also terrible.
Yeah, so this is Jack, the first of our two main characters, and he acts actually like, to be perfectly frank, Chris, there were gym teachers that I remember who did the same thing. So, he's not the only gym teacher ever to mock kids. But obviously, this is something that is going to become a problem for him, because this kid Henry isn't having any of it. And Henry is pretty sharp, and you can tell that he has a long memory. Now, Chris, if you were picturing a battle of wits between Henry and Jack, who do you think would probably win?
Henry, every time.
Hands down, right? So I think Jack starts to realize, you know what? Having this kid hate me is probably not a good idea, because he's going to grow up to be my principal, and he's going to make life a living hell for me.
Also, this kid probably already knows the rules of the teaching world. He knows how this school operates. I'm going to be coming in here as a rookie. This kid is going to take me to the woodshed. I really got to change.
Exactly. Now, in all transformational stories, there's usually an older, wizened person who acts as a mentor. And unfortunately for Jack, that person is Coach Fuller.
This guy said nothing, did nothing. He was a pylon in this story.
But darn it, he really was into his skin.
He did. I think he was out in the sun too long. I think he was just out in the sun too long.
Probably. But, once he found a moisturizer, he let the authorities know that Jack had this problem. So, obviously, as you saw, they made Henry his sort of special student for his to study. And then he learned eventually that, he had to be nice to the kids and actually supportive rather than mean.
He didn't even have to be nice. Just be supportive. Be a teacher as opposed to a bully. He was a bully earlier.
Exactly. And, he only had to go through Teachers College to learn that one simple fact.
4 years. 4 years. He didn't pull that out of any lesson.
So that was transformation number one, which wasn't a huge transformation, but it was transformation.
He transformed into an actual decent human being.
Exactly. And speaking of human beings, let us look at our second character, who is Elaine, who we see here, who attends Teachers College, not realizing for some reason that children are going to be part of the equation. And you can see that totally stunned look in her eyes.
This was the disillusioned one. Jack was the narcissist. Elaine was the disillusioned one.
And what's interesting is her mentor is Mrs. Schaefer. And I'm going to go on to just a small digression here, Chris. What amazes me about Mrs. Schaefer is that she's dressed almost exactly like Beaver Cleaver's mother, June Cleaver.
Yes, June Cleaver, played by Barbara Billingsley.
Yes.
She does. She looks a lot like June Cleaver here.
So I like to think in some alternate reality, Mrs. Cleaver and Miss Schaefer met. Somehow Mrs. Cleaver has done away with Miss Schaefer and has adopted her identity, at least for a time, and certainly her clothing. But so I digress here from the main story.
Miss Schaefer was Beaver Cleaver's mother, and June Cleaver moved in and just took it all, took her whole identity.
Exactly.
Scandal.
Well, Ward was a handsome guy, so.
Yes, he was.
There we go. So as we move away from our digression and back to our story, the kids start to get a little unruly, as children do, and she is totally and completely unprepared for a child not reacting like she would.
Nice screen grab. How did you not... Oh, when you grabbed this still, how did you not compare and contrast that to the Wicked Witch of the West from The Wizard of Oz?
That's true. I really should have grabbed that because it is so bang on that hatred and confusion in her eyes.
Look at that death stare.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to be on the end of it. So one person who's likely going to be on the end of that death stare at some point is this guy that she's dancing with.
Yeah.
So the way they solve her problem is getting her to join the human race and getting her out to meet people for the first time. And and you can see this is probably the first time she's ever seen a man who's not a member of her own family, judging by that look in her eye.
Oh my goodness gracious, you're right. She's like, I'm not used to dancing with someone who's not my brother.
Yeah. So immediately, once the teachers see this, it's like, we have to get her involved with small children because she's going to need to learn how to deal with small children very soon. So this is her here learning basically how to avoid dealing with children who are fighting on the playground, which is apparently okay because, the older teacher basically says, don't get involved. But
just let them be. Let them be. They're good. Let them work it out.
But the thing I love about this screen grab, Chris, is this guy. This is a young Ric Flair, third man into the ring, doing a full body press on these other kids.
I was going to say, this guy gets a game misconduct for being third man into the fight.
But this is why, again, going to do a digression, this is why wrestling will always be popular with kids, whether it's the 1940s or the 2020s. Kids just naturally take to it.
That's what they do. And that kid is proof right there. Third man in, body slam.
These three young men a few years later would actually found the National Wrestling Alliance. So a little bit of trivia for you there.
Okay, good to know.
And that is our program. For those of you who are new subscribers, and I know we've got a few new ones, welcome. And we encourage you to check out our back catalog. And if you're not a subscriber yet, Chris, why don't you tell them what they need to do?
Just hit the subscribe button. It's the big red thing down there on your YouTube page, and that will get you to our YouTube site. Check us out online as well, so you can find out a little bit more about who Jason and I are. But on YouTube, by subscribing, first you get reminded whenever our next episode is up. We do lives periodically. We're actually going to be doing a little more regularly. We were talking about that last week, Jason, when we did our last live. And it also gets you, as Jason mentioned a moment ago, full-time access to our gallery. The opportunity to go back and check out the episodes that you may have missed. We've covered a lot of topics. There's got to be one in there that you're going to like.
Absolutely. There's a lot of cheese at your disposal waiting to be seen. So why not binge watch us? And until next time, for Chris Mei, I'm Jason Reid. Keep watching Cheezy Sales Cinema.
And we'll see you next time.